going on, Jerome? So, of course, the drama. Well, actually, no drama. It was a really fun year with slinging Sammy Darnold, aka America's quarterback. I think that there was definitely some redhead redemption this season. 14 wins. The ending, maybe not so much. But remember the good times, and there was a lot of good times. It was a fun season, except for the ending, right? But Darnold has played himself into some cash. Now, probably not here, since J.J. McCarthy is likely going to be his show, but somewhere out there, there's monies, and Sam Darnold is definitely going to get his, as there isn't really any other legitimate free agent quarterbacks out there. There just isn't a guy that says, hey, he could be your franchise guy. And Darnold had his ups and downs, but there was definitely a lot of ups. And I feel like there's a lot of coaches out there, a lot of GMs and decision makers that look at Sam Darnold and say, hey, the Vikings surrounded Sam with good coaching and good infrastructure, and we can do that here. And also, I think that Sam's going to be most appealing to a team that's close, that feels like they're a quarterback away. We can protect him. We got good coaching. We got some weapons. We don't have a high draft pick. It's not a great quarterback class anyway, and then they can roll from there. So we rank the top 10 landing spots for Sam Darnold after the initial rumors and innuendo and conjecture and all that stuff going into free agency. So obviously the Vikings could work out a tag and trade, and I think that could still be in the cards because there's a lot of teams I think will be in the Derby for Sam Darnold. And I think that there could be some, well, it's not going to take a lot, right? It's not going to be 2 1s for Sam Darnold, the true franchise tag. It's not going to be it. I think that if a team can come up with a 3rd round pick in 2025 and some change, I think that they could be in business. And for the cost of that, you could have an exclusive negotiating window with Sam Darnold and go from there. Because what will happen is the franchise tag window opens on the 18th. Goes through March 4th, and then open free agency starts. Well, legal tampering starts on the 10th, right? So a team that's going to do the trading, the Vikings and Darnold's agent, will get together and they'll work out a tag and trade situation if indeed he is tagged during that window. Whether it's franchise or transition tag, doesn't really matter. And I think that since there will be several teams interested in him, I think all it will take is one team that's like, hey, he's our guy. We want to get this done. We don't want to outbid. We don't want him to hit the open market because that could drive up the price. If we can get an extension done now and a tag and trade done now, then that's what we're going to do. All right, so I think that it's more viable than not. And we say that 3rd round pick is the starting opening salvo because that's what his 2026 comp pick valuation would be. And as we said before, that could complicate things because the Vikings are likely going to be big-time players in free agency this season, so it could be moot. But long story longer, going through. So I think that Darnold is going to be most appealing to, like we said, teams that are close, teams that have infrastructure to surround him, and a team that likely doesn't have a high draft pick, right? So we ranked them based on that emphasis. So number 1, the Rams. So the Rams, it does seem like the Stafford era is over, right? And it seems like the team is sort of sick of Kelly Stafford airing out, the team's internal business in the media. That's perfectly fine. I do think that I think the steam of Stafford to the Giants is legitimate. And I don't think that they're going to get the number 3 overall pick. They can play hardball all they want, but that would free up even more cap space for the Rams. And I say that the Rams would be the best spot for Darnold for a myriad of reasons. Beyond the whole, we whooped his ass in the playoff game, I think that was more a testament to the Rams' defensive line. But Darnold, he did play well against them in the first regular season game, especially the first 2 drives. Maybe not the last drive where it was the face mask on the safety. But Darnold thrived in a Kevin O'Connell offense. Of course, Sean McVay, from that coaching tree. So a very similar offense Darnold can thrive in. The Rams' offensive line, when healthy, is legit. They have weapons in Puka and Kyron Williams, Higbee as well. So I think that this makes a lot of sense. Also, the fact that Darnold's a Southern California kid, it would be a homecoming. And I think that I do think that Sean McVay could see Darnold as a quarterback that he can win a Super Bowl with, right? It may not be win a Super Bowl because of, but hey, if we surround him with enough weapons and good coaching, as we saw in Minnesota, I think that we could do some damage with Darnold. So that's why I think Rams are number 1, but that has moving parts with they got to trade Stafford first, right? Steelers are 2. So the Steelers have openly said that they're potentially going to bring back Wilson. They're potentially going to bring back Justin Fields. Yeah, at 21, could they get in the Jackson Dart business at the back end of the first round? Maybe, sure. But I feel like with Tomlin, it's not a hot seat, but maybe it's slightly warm, right? And Tomlin and his winning season record streak, it's great, but there's been no Steelers team in recent memory that you said they got to the playoffs, like, hey, they could win a Super Bowl, right? It just seems like they're perpetually an also-ran. And with Darnold, you have a quarterback who potentially could be your franchise guy, surrounding him with weapons. Steelers' offensive line has been a work in progress. Love me some Zach Frazier, by the way. Pride of West Virginia. I wanted it. Almost heaven, West Virginia. Zach Frazier would have been great playing on a broken leg and stuff, man. But I think that Three Rivers could be a great spot for Sam Darnold. Number 3, the Jets, just for hilarity's sake, right? And the Jets, I mean, the cap number could be in flux because they're going to have to eat $49 million dead with Aaron Rodgers moving on. They do have the number 7 overall pick, so maybe they trade up for a quarterback. And of course, this would be the most hilarious one because another chapter of the dumbest rivalry in sports history, as well as the whole thing about, oh yeah, Darnold was a bust here early on. Now, it's a different GM, different head coach with Aaron Glenn coming in. Aaron Glenn playing against Darnold twice this year. He saw his flaws, he saw his upside, and everything like that. And I do think that with some of the Jets' weapons, I mean, I think that Garrett Wilson and Darnold would be really damn good together. Really, really damn good. For the Raiders, I mean, the Raiders have a ton of cap space. The Raiders need a lot of work. They do stay at 6. They could be in range for one of the quarterbacks if they do take a tumble, or the Raiders could have a small trade up. But I think this is potentially the best of both worlds because Pete and Chip Kelly, ideally they'd like to win right away. And you definitely do need an established quarterback to be able to compete in the AFC West against Mahomes and Herbert and now Bo Nix and stupid-ass Sean Payton. So I think instead of throwing a dart and hoping that one of these draft quarterbacks are good, I think that having Darnold in the building, you have the cap space to be able to afford it. You can still go out and get more weapons. And this also could be enticing of keeping Max Crosby happy and in the building because he wants to go to a winner. And yeah, you could gamble on one of these young quarterbacks, but you know that Darnold is going to be legit. And I think that Darnold could make some sense in Las Vegas. The Tennessee Titans, so they have $44 million cap space. They do have the number 1 overall pick. It could be a spot, too, where they sign Darnold at quarterback. They don't have to roll the dice on Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, and they can trade the number 1 pick potentially for a mint if a team is really motivated, if they really fall in love with one of these quarterbacks. And also the Titans. So love me some Bill Callahan. I think that he's one of the best offensive line coaches in recent NFL history. They definitely need some work along the offensive line. The right tackle last year was the worst in the league. Latham is legitimate. Skoronski is legit. I think that if they can protect Darnold, he could do a little something. Also, I've said that the Nashville media market, I feel like it would be fine for him. Like, I think that the Jets and the Giants are kind of hilarious, but I don't think that he can return to the New York market. And you could say, like, well, the LA market is huge too. It's not as hard on its NFL teams as, say, like USC football. You know what I mean? So I think he'd be fine, especially being home in SoCal. There you go. Giants at 6. I don't know. Like, if I'm Darnold, do you just pass on the Giants because you have a lame duck GM, you have a lame duck head coach in Brian Daboll, and I mean, if you sign a long-term deal, like there's going to be a new GM, new head coach, and you could be out. I mean, they didn't sign you. So I'd be worried about that one too. 7, they got the Colts. Sort of a similar situation. I think that Chris Ballard's constantly on thin ice with Irsay and Shane Steichen. I don't know. But I do think that the Colts do have pieces, even though there's going to be some interior offensive line turnover. Ryan Kelly as well as Matt Fries are free agents. But you do have Jonathan Taylor-Thomas. You do have Pittman, etc. So, I mean, it could be intriguing there. I just put the Vikings at 8. I don't think they bring him back in any capacity, but I guess never say never. Like maybe Darnold just looks at the market and is like, hey, I'm not going to get the deal that I want. I'll come back on a cheap 1-year deal. maybe even less than the transition tag. Don't know. And then you got Saints and the Browns. This would take a lot of cap gymnastics, which they could do. And the Saints, I think they're going to part ways with Derek Carr. I just don't see that. Kellen Moore could have some affinity for Sam Darnold. The Browns, of course, Stefanski. I don't know. Like Stefanski, Andrew Berry, there would be an open line of communication with Minnesota if they want to make this happen. Basically, they're stuck with a Deshaun deal, and I don't think that he ever plays another down for them. But they would have to move some mountains and be very creative, clearing up some cap space, structure the Darnold contract as a back-end type deal. So and just go from there. But overall, like I think that Darnold has clearly played himself into a contract, and there's not going to be a lack of suitors for him, and that could be very good for the Vikings. Because again, if there's 5, 6, 7 teams ready to bid for Darnold, that could drive up the price. And all it takes is one team to approach Kwesi and the Vikings and be like, hey, you tag him, we will trade you a third and a fourth, and then we can have that exclusive negotiating window. It won't drive the price up, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I think that certainly could be possible. But your thoughts are thoughts. Slinging Sammy Darnold, a.k.a. America's quarterback, potential landing spots in 2025. Let us know your thoughts, comment section. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skull production value.